Township Board of Trustees and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item is additions and deletions. So I'll move to delete action item number 5, approval of the intergovernmental agreement regarding Wayne County roads. And Derek, can you got background on that?
Yeah, so the township did receive some funding from the county for road resurfacing, where we had anticipated having the intergovernmental agreement for consideration by the board and approval this evening, but we have not received it yet, as was the case at the last meeting. So we're putting it on there in the hopes that we receive it before the meeting.
Okay.
But since we didn't get it, we have to remove it.
Okay.
You know what their holdup is?
No, I talked to them probably a week or so ago. They mentioned that the individual that processes these he was out of town, but I had asked that they have somebody else handle it, and I'm not sure what happened with all that. So it becomes critical when we start doing our road projects, which will probably happen in July sometime. So as long as we get it by probably the first or second week in July, we should be okay. So that'll kind of be the issue if we don't have it by then.
So your expectation would be they should at least have it by the end of this week?
Well, probably prior to our next board meeting, which would be the 9th. So if we have it on the agenda for the 9th, it shouldn't be a problem for our road project.
Which means they should get it to you before.
Within the next 2 weeks,
Right,
yes.
okay.
Yep.
They understand our circumstance, right?
Absolutely, yes. Yep.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of removing action item number 5, approval of intergovernmental agreement with regarding Wayne County roads, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay? No nays. Okay, so the next two are adds. These are items that have been brought up to me as something we need to consider. I can provide the verbiage, but I'm not going to sponsor the specific motions. So you, if you wanted to, would just say so move, and then someone would have to second it. The first is add discussion on allowing applicants who withdrew their bridge commission packets to continue to interview.
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Okay, so we have at least one person that had a scheduled interview for this week that withdrew their packet. So we can add this as a discussion item to discuss allowing them to continue to interview. I think the default position would be that they would be allowed to continue to interview, but I think this board probably needs to come to some kind of consensus on that. So it's fine to be a discussion item.
So are we discussing it now then, or?
We'll discuss it during discussion items. So
Okay.
it'll be,
We will know who those people are
I guess
then.
we'll add it after public comment. So
Okay.
yes, yep, it's Chris Johnson withdrew his packet
Right,
and has
now he wants to
since
put it back.
said he would return an interview. So
I spoke
yep.
with him about 45 minutes. on
Okay.
that. And then the last one has confirmed that he will not be.
Okay, so it just would be
Yeah.
Yeah.
yep. So that would be after public comment. So any further discussion on that? Okay, so this is a motion to add a discussion item allowing applicants who withdrew their bridge commission packets to continue to interview. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. So that's unanimous. All right, the second one is an action item. And so this would be action item number 6, which would be a motion to not broadcast the bridge interviews for the Bridge Commission conducted by this board.
Can we discuss that real quick before we make the motion?
Well, we should make the motion and get a second before we discuss it.
I'll make the motion.
Motion, or
No, I'm not going to
So
motion
moved.
that. Okay, so Mark's made the motion. Anybody second it?
I'll second it.
Okay, so now we can discuss it. So,
Or does it go with the discussion items?
well, we can. So what?
It's an action item, so that would put it
So
up
what
there
we're
after
doing, what
the
we're
5.
discussing now is whether we want to make it an action item.
Okay.
So this gets a little hedgy because we might end up going the trail of just debating it at this point. So typically you would want to stay focused on, do we even want to debate this? So if you prevented this, let's say we shot this down, it wasn't added. The effect would be that we must broadcast the bridge interviews. So,
Is
No,
this,
I think we should discuss it.
is this repetitive though? I mean,
No, I'm sorry.
well, go ahead, Margaret.
well, no, I mean, I understand what you're saying, Mark, but that very first set of interviews, you know, we made a big production about this, and now we're gonna go back and change our minds potentially? Is that what we're?
Well, I get what you're saying. Unfortunately,
Oh, right.
yeah, we have to vote on it. This board, not this board, the previous board passed a motion that all meetings, special meetings, and anything conducted by this board, the Board of Trustees, must be televised. However, we can opt to not televise it by a majority vote of this board. So we don't have a choice. I realize we potentially have some issues with the first round of interviews, but if we don't want to televise it, we must take positive action as a board.
So are we going, I'm sorry I asked before, but are we going to discuss it now, or does it come later in the?
No, it would be action item number 6, so it would come later.
Okay.
We were just discussing as to whether we even want to add it right now.
Okay.
So,
Jameson, just as a point of clarification, I recall that document you're talking about, but I recall that it also left the provision that in a special circumstance,
it's only applicable to commissions.
I'm not sure I understood what you said.
So there's where the chairman of a commission may opt not to broadcast a study session, you mean?
No, not a study session. But I'm talking about, maybe I'm not following you, maybe I am. We have people who are interviewing. But in certain situations, someone might choose to be excluded from an interview that is public. We have a clause in there that says we can put that into effect if we deem the circumstance merits it. And
Yeah.
the one that I had in discussion was, and I made this up, this is just saying, I've got a lieutenant in the police department in Wyandotte. He'd like to be considered for police chief. When that goes public, what does that do to what's going on with him over there in Wyandotte after that? I could see that as a valid concern. That's a different than a blanket I do this every time I'm here. That's different than a blanket proclamation for everybody.
Yes. So
So
we
I think
can.
that's an important point that allows people who have a special situation.
Well, so typically this board doesn't interview candidates, right? But because this board, the Board of Trustees, interviewed these candidates, it's risen to the level where, according to our previous board and the resolution we passed, where we have to broadcast it, or we vote to not broadcast it, right? So we must take action as a board to not broadcast it.
I'm not sure I understood that. Why do we must do that? I don't-
Because on the 13th of February, 2023, the Grosse Ile Township Board adopted that all township regular board meetings should be televised and taped. Further, that whenever possible, all township board meetings, including special meetings and study sessions, should be televised and taped. All township board meetings that is not televised and taped will be determined by the township board majority determination. So there was a previous action by a board that said we must tape and televise all meetings of this board regardless of type. So-
Regardless of type, thank you for making that clear. I
Yeah,
needed to
now-
hear that.
I think so the Open Meeting Act does have a provision where you don't have to televise or have a public meeting for disciplinary action. So if we were disciplining a township employee, we could have a closed meeting for that, but I don't think it's relevant in this.
Now,
Case.
this document that I was reading that was in our packet a few weeks back, it came up with a different exception than what you're talking about, and it seems to me, as I understand it, that they sort of conflict with one another. The one in 23 was, the one that I was originally referring to was more recent. I don't remember exactly when, but it was not in 2023. So on the one hand, we're saying this, and on the other hand, we're saying that.
I'm not sure what document you're referring to.
Well, Jim Budney had put together some kind of a document that basically said, we're going to broadcast them on television. Everything goes. However, if there's an exception with merit, we'll consider it. That, to me, if
Well, no
I
one's
didn't
requested
hear
an
in your,
exception.
I didn't hear.
So they do. You can request an exception. We don't have to grant it.
And I'm saying
Right.
that if we have that, then if somebody needs privacy, then now we're getting into discussion, but if somebody needs privacy, we have, within what we have on the books right now, the ability to grant that to them.
Yes.
Okay, and I think that's an important point to note, and I didn't hear you say that in your first remarks.
I'm not sure. I think that the township, the motion by this board, the resolution by this board supersedes anything Mr. Budney put together, but I'd have to see what legal basis he drew that from.
Well, are we voting, we have to understand the consequences of our choices. What I'm saying, are we aware that we have, and it seems to me you mentioned this thing in 23. I'm not sure how those two match with each other. As I heard you and as I listened to this, I saw a conflict in the two positions, which one would qualify versus the other.
I think we could probably vote on it today, and then tomorrow maybe Derek can take a deeper look into it, and if there's anything, he'll come back and let us know.
Now, what am I
But I
voting
wonder-
on today when you say that?
We are voting again, just to put it as an action item to take a vote on whether we want it televised or not.
Yeah, so we
Okay,
have to,
that's, we want
have
to
to-
rediscuss it some more. I have no
We'll
conflict.
have discussion later on.
we have to purposely opt out of televising it by vote of this board. So so that's what we're adding as an action item, is to not televise the bridge interviews.
It's the same thing, whether or not to televise it. So if we don't want to, we'll vote that way, right? When we go to
Every
vote,
time I
he'll
get into this, I
explain it.
get hung up. Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
When we go to vote, he'll
So,
explain further.
I guess right now, all we're discussing is, are we even adding this as an action item? This isn't the discussion for the actual action item yet.
And you had the motion in the second, right? So now we
Yep.
just need to vote on it?
Correct. So this is, now, this doesn't make it, we're not passing this, it's just adding it to the agenda.
We're just deciding to talk on it some more.
Right, and
Yeah.
vote.
Yeah, we're adding it as an action item.
Yep. So any further discussion on adding action item number 6, motion to not broadcast the interviews for the Bridge Commission conducted by this board? We can talk about it some more when it's an action item, if you
Okay.
like.
Yep.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
And that was number 6.
that will be number 6.
Mr. Clerk, just a point of order. Brian, just for the benefit of the board, can you address, because we have 6 here this evening, if there is a split vote during the meeting for any item, what the result of that is?
Yep, so a split vote is a no vote. So if we end up in a 3-3, it does not pass. And that means it doesn't come back, it is dead. Just so we all understand that.
Thank you for bringing that up. I had that thought a minute ago. Can we delay it a week and it'll make no difference when Joe will be back?
Well, we have the interviews, Wednesday?
Oh, we can't do that. We
Yeah.
have to make,
Yeah.
let's see.
So, okay. So we will move on to public comment, limited to 3 minutes. Please state your name and address. Any takers? No? Is there anybody behind the podium?
No, it's over there.
Okay. Then our first discussion item, discussion on allowing applicants to withdraw, who withdrew Bridge Commission packets to interview. So I believe, Mark, you made this motion?
Yeah, I made the
Wanna
first motion. I'll go ahead.
Fire the opening volley?
Sure. So my position is this. If you withdrew, for whatever reason you withdrew, I think that decision should stand. To come back on after you withdrew, for me, shows a commitment issue. And I don't know Mr. Johnson, so I'm not going to say one way or the other. My point is, you already withdrew once. I don't know what the position was to come back. Regardless, I think it puts a disadvantage for those who went through with it to begin with, based on the criteria we had at the time. If others had the same option based on what happened with our last meeting with the recordings, they may have opted to do the same thing. So I think as it stands right now, for those who decide to withdraw, should not be considered for interview at this point in time, based on their original decision.
Go ahead,
Are
Mickey.
Are you done? I don't
I'm
wanna
all set,
interrupt.
thank you, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So I spoke with both gentlemen, and I spoke to the one first, and he was very honest with me. He said, hey,
Who was
I-
that?
I don't really want to bring their names up tonight because
There's
they've
only
already.
two.
Right, but it's just when I'm speaking, I won't bring their names up. I don't want to embarrass them, but they're both very successful, very intelligent gentlemen. Highly qualified. I would say that the one that is not going to interview is either one of the most or the most qualified out of the entire group based on his business and his experience. He was very clear to me. I asked him, I said, can I just ask, why? He was very clear it was the way that the first interviews were conducted, that somebody held a phone up and was taking pictures and filming the one while they were answering questions, while they were saying some things that he felt it was childish, that they were very uncomfortable with it. So then I spoke to the other one. I was on the phone with him for 45 minutes, basically begging him, telling him we needed the experience, that nonsense will not continue, that we respect them, we understand they're professionals, we understand that their reputation matters. I talked to him for quite a while. He finally said, okay, I'll consider it. He came back and he said, all right, I'm willing to interview. I appreciate it. I do want to give to the community. Then I called back the first one and he said, you know what, I really thought about it. I do not like the way it was handled at all. You don't conduct business that way. So as much as I appreciate all of you, I'm going to step back and not interview. But he said if I call him or Joe calls him, he is more than willing to answer any questions that we have that may come up on the board commission, which is very nice because if you monetized what his time is worth per hour. But so we have one that said, okay, I believe you that nonsense won't continue, and the other one saying, you know what, I'm a businessman and I just have to walk away from this. Okay.
Yeah, I think that, and I talked with one of the applicants as well, and I think that, I think this board does a pretty good job of insulating the commissions against politics, but ultimately, politics can get messy, it can be ugly, right? We're going to argue and fight, and I think that if people aren't looking closely at how the commissions interact, which is a little less contentious, I think sometimes they think that they're walking into a firefight, right?
But I do think we should have some protocols on how we conduct business as the board, and I don't think we should be picking up our phones and taking pictures of people. When they come up to that podium, that's intimidating to come before all of us. I remember when I was running, it's intimidating. And to pick up the phone and start acting like that, we need to have protocols where we do not do things like that, and that we honor these volunteers and we appreciate them and we treat them with respect.
And I mean, if that's I suppose if you want to bring up a particular board etiquette kind of policy, I suppose that's something we could consider for the future. So,
Mr. Clerk, can I comment on, please? In response, I know I finished up first, but based on what was said, I'd like to comment if I can. So based on that, and I understand what you're saying, I appreciate what you're saying, Ms. Bartlett. However, I think the Bridge Commission is probably going to be the most scrutinized board we've ever had, probably more scrutinized than this board. And if to allow somebody to withdraw and come back, it doesn't make a fair gesture to the first person to give them an opportunity to come back. I just believe that if they made the decision to withdraw, it should stand. I understand we might be losing some experience. We might be losing some good information that could be coming down from this particular individual. But the point is it's not fair across the board, particularly to the first person who withdrew for the same reason to jump back in. I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate it. I really do. I just think at this point in time, if you withdraw, you should stay withdrawn. If we have other openings later down the line, they're more than welcome to reapply. But I think at this point, we should go with what we have and move forward.
But I think we're going to see people not volunteering for the commissions after what happened. This did real harm to the township. This is one of the biggest undertakings we will ever have. This man has a company that builds and repairs bridges, and because we treated him with such disrespect, not we, one person, he will no longer put himself to that scrutiny or that childishness and have that impact his business reputation. That's a lot different than saying, I don't know if I want to be on it, I like it, I don't like it. This was because of an action from a board member. I think that's very different, and I think the board member owes him an apology as well as the other person.
well,
I understand that. I'm sorry, may I respond?
Yeah, I just don't want to get into I don't want to get into any kind of back and forth that's outside of the issue.
That's not the point of my next comment, but that's fine. It's up to you.
That was for the.
You're running the meeting.
Are we,
Do you want to finish? Because I was going to comment, so I want.
So we'll give Mark a rebuttal, then we'll go to
That's
Margaret.
what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the whole point of me bringing, as I understand what you're saying, Ms. Bartlett, I understand.
It's Mrs. Bartlett.
Okay, all right.
I'm sure the person understands because his wife is in the front row. It's Mrs. Bartlett.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah.
All right, guys, come on.
All right, yeah, so.
We'll
I'm
talk about the
gonna-
interview process. You know what, I'm sorry, I'm all set. I'm all set.
Okay,
I've stated my
so-
case, I'm done. Let's move forward.
Yep, Margaret, would you
Yes.
like to, you have the floor.
I would, thank you. So, I understand both points of view, and if the situation hadn't evolved the way it did, Mark, I would absolutely align with what you're saying. However, I did speak to the first candidate that had declined to interview based on how he found out the list of candidates, that it was posted on Facebook, that it was a performative situation, and to echo what Mickey has said, this person is extremely knowledgeable. He is an expert beyond anything we could provide. I personally almost even felt like this would be a difficult person to interview in the sense of how do you ask an expert? What kind of questions do you ask somebody that you know they already know more than you? However, the bottom line is I normally would align with what you're saying. How these people found out about what had transpired was through a Facebook post, and it to me seemed inappropriate to do things that way, and then to have people come forward to be interviewed without having personally advised them that they were going to be recorded and potentially televised. And then again, to the point of holding a phone up and recording the first person just seemed very uncomfortable. You know, the visuals seem very uncomfortable. So I understand what you're saying, Mark. I just, I struggle with that. I can see why this person put in his application, withdrew it, had conversations with people on the board. I didn't speak to the second person. I just spoke with the first person. I could see why perhaps he then changed his mind. I assume somebody must have spoken with him and encouraged him to, you know, please come and do the interview anyway.
I know Mickey spoke with him for an extensive period of time. We emailed back and forth for quite a while. So, and it's my position. I think this, I'm of two minds about this, because on the one hand, I'm very much like Mark in that I believe that there's like a particular way to do things, right? But I think this commission is so important, and it's such a big deal that we can't afford to leave anybody out that could potentially be a real bellwether for us, right? So I believe that we should let anybody that was originally through the interview process and selected by this board through our previous program to interview. I don't know, Bill, do you have any?
yes, I have some comments to make. I wish we had more time to review this because I really believe that having a clear consensus is important. But I can also understand that we're in a situation we've never been in before. And so we're learning ourselves when we do it. And I've spoken to Mr. Number One years ago. I don't remember what the reason was. The most likely one was that I'm a member of Rotary and we had a bunch of cookies and I had a bag of 6 cookies and went and gave him some to ask him if he'd like to be part of Rotary. I swear to you, that's the best memory I've got. But we had a conversation for over 45 minutes, or at least that much. I knew enough about bridges to talk with him, and then he respected it. And I says, gee, you're great. Why don't you consider, something like this? He said, no. I'd like to make a bid on that bridge if it needs any work, and I'd be afraid there'd be a conflict of interest. Now, I'm not saying that's what was said here now. I'm not saying that whatever took place here didn't offend him. But I know that I could understand that as well, and I don't know that that is what he was thinking. I respect the heck out of the guy. He does know more than anybody else. I learned from him, but I was able to relate to him and learn because of it. We want qualified people. I think that what I like about the fact that we do televise it
Well, we're just talking about allowing people who withdrew their interview packets
is, okay, if
to
we
still
talk.
interview. We're not on
I,
television.
I would go, thank you, I need to be kept straight, I get a little bit mixed up there. At this point, we're gonna have to decide on that. And so, do we want to do interviews or not? Everybody gives televised interviews. Do we want to talk about it, is what we're saying, right?
No. So we're having a discussion item right now.
Right.
To discuss allowing applicants who withdrew their Bridge Commission packets and then came back and said, okay, I'll interview, to still interview.
Yeah, I'd let them interview.
Okay, all right. And then Kevin, do you have
No, thank you.
anything to add? Okay. I think there's a general consensus from at least 5 members of the board to continue to allow people that withdrew their packets to interview. So I think that concludes the discussion item, unless there's anybody that has a brief follow-on statement.
It isn't fair to their first candidate. Period. That's all I've got.
Okay. I missed something, and Brian squared me away. So, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Can I ask you though, on that DIRECTV uniform video, it's on the consent part, but I'd just like a quick explanation of that, and I don't know if that
We're
means it has to
gonna
move
have
forward.
one during the consent agenda part.
Okay, great.
So, yeah, we
Thank
all
you.
need an explanation.
Okay.
So motion to approve the agenda as amended, which was the removal of action item number 5, the addition of a discussion item allowing applicants who withdrew their Bridge Commission packets to interview, and action item number 6, motion to not broadcast the interviews for the Bridge Commission conducted by this board.
So you moved it?
I moved it.
We're
So
moving to
second.
discuss it. I thought I seconded, but that's okay.
Okay.
Anybody
All in
can say-
favor?
Aye.
All right. Now we'll move to the consent agenda. So the consent agenda, okay, I'll do this in a motion. I move to approve consent agenda 25-028, which includes the minutes of June 9th, 2025 regular meeting, check registers dated through June 20th, 2025, approval to process and distribute payments through July 4th, 2025, and the DIRECTV Uniform Video Services Local Franchise Agreement contingent on explanation from the Township Manager.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. You're up.
I'm going to defer to our communications.
Double deferment.
Director. Double deferment.
Yeah, so basically around, I want to say 2006, 2008, somewhere around there, the Uniform Video Services Local Franchise Act was created by the state of Michigan. That basically established a standardized franchise agreement that every community signs. There is no difference. Every community is the exact same agreement. It ensures that consistent terms and conditions are across every municipality in Michigan. In essence, this streamlines the process for obtaining video service franchises for those providers. Also for the municipality, it gives us the ability to collect fees and manage our right-of-ways. We don't have any leeway on this. I mean, I know it's an agreement, and it seems like we should, but like I said, this agreement is standardized now, and it's been forever. I mean, 12 years or 17 years or so.
This is statewide, right?
Statewide.
Yeah, it's a state level agreement. Okay.
Every agreement's exactly the same no matter where you go, and everyone's getting this, 5% or at least 2% if you look through it. For a bigger community, obviously that 5% piece of the pie is much nicer than a smaller community like us. So that's pretty much how it goes.
But is this cable TV that's offered in the township, and then we get?
So this is DIRECTV itself. And every WOW has theirs, but like I said, if you read WOW's agreement, it's going to read exactly the same as this one. If you read Comcast's agreement, it's going to read exactly the same as this one. Those, I think we did WOW's, I want to say 2 years ago, I think we did WOW's. And I think they're usually, 5 years or something like that. So I don't know when Comcast comes up, but when it comes before the next board or this board, it will be the exact same language you read in this one.
Yeah,
So
they're non-negotiable, right?
there's
Yeah.
nothing there, right? Exactly. So,
But if I have Huawei and say I pay $100 a month, then the township gets 5% of that?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now
we
that makes
collect
sense.
fees to manage right-of-ways, essentially, right? That's the rub.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, it used to be back before they went to this, we would sit down at a table and we would be able to negotiate our own percentage for every cable company that came into the township. Unfortunately, that changed, so that put us in a tougher spot where we're automatically getting a number instead of being able to, call that number.
Okay,
So-
that makes sense now.
Okay, any further discussion on consent agenda item number 4? All right, so we have a motion on the table to approve consent agenda 25-028, including the minutes of the June 9th regular meeting, check registers dated through June 20th, approval to process and distribute payments through July 4th, and the DIRECTV Uniform Video Services Local Franchise Agreement renewal. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we have 5 action items tonight. The first 5 come from DPS. Brian, who motioned action item number 6? I know I made the statement, but who moved it?
Mark.
Okay. And then action item number 6 will be Mark, and I'll restate what I stated previously since I know you don't have it in front of you. So
No, I don't.
take it away, DPS liaison.
Okay. Good evening. The first action item is I move that the Grosville Township Board hereby confirm the budgeted fiscal year 2025-2026 adjustments to township water rates as approved by the 2025-2026 budget. This action item.
Second.
Thank you. This action item confirms the water rate adjustments for fiscal year 2025-26 to start with July 2025 billings. In summary, the following are the budgeted adjustments. Water service charges from $17.50 a quarter to $24.32 a quarter. Metered sales, no change, staying at $12.71 a unit. Sewer, no change, both service and metered charges are staying the same, and refuse, no change. The implementation schedule starts July 2025. Financial impact, the DPS adjusts annually water rates to accommodate increases in water rates from the Great Lakes Water Authority. The GLWA water rate increases for fiscal year 2025-26 resulted in an overall cost increase of approximately $187,683. The above increase, other budgeted demands have been factored into the budget. With all considerations, the proposed water increase for the next fiscal year will result in an approximately $111,142 in additional revenue. Increases are being proposed on the service charge part of the bill, but not the metered sales component of the bill. And Derek, would you add a little bit of
So that
information?
the service charge is just one service charge quarterly, right? It's not a per unit or anything like that.
Correct.
So essentially, everyone's bill is going to increase $6 a quarter.
Yes and no. So for the standard meter size, that's the case.
Okay.
And there'll be proportional differences for those with different meter sizes. So for most residents, that is the case,
Okay.
yes. So,
All right.
but we apply, let's just say you have a meter that's a 3-inch meter, whatever the proportional difference is between 1750 and 2432, that will be that on that meter.
Okay.
Okay.
What did you say about actual water consumption?
So there are 2 components to your water charge. One is a is a quarterly charge that basically is your readiness to serve. So that pays for the pipes. It's a fixed charge. And then there's a commodity charge, which is variable. The charge is always the same, but depending upon your usage, that total cost could be variable. We're not, in the budget, it wasn't approved with a change to the rate that handles the commodity. It's just the fixed cost. So, and the reason for that is GLWA has been going away from an adjustment on their commodity. They've gone more heavily towards a fixed charge. So we prefer to go that route because there's a guaranteed cost that we have. We want guaranteed revenue to support that guaranteed cost. So that's
That makes
the
sense.
reason for that adjustment.
Thank you.
Yep, and to the treasurer's point, GLWA's adjustment for this year resulted in about $187,000 cost increase to the water account. We are able to realize some savings elsewhere in the budget, so we're only adjusting for a total increase in revenue of $111,000. So basically, we were able to find some $70 or so thousand in additional savings within the budget to minimize that increase, to not charge the full weight of the cost increase from GLWA. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
Just to, I get the $6. Technically, it's probably closer to $7, but, because I don't want anybody to be confused and say, well, Jameson told me it's $6, and it's $6.82 to be precise.
I appreciate that because I actually would get that email. So.
So I just, normally I would not correct you, but I don't want anybody to, normally if you round, we're going to round up and say $7.
and just one further note: this is recommended in the budget, recommended by the DPS Commission through that budgetary process. So this has been reviewed by them. Although it wasn't at their last meeting, it was during the budgetary process, and the budget was balanced utilizing this. So.
Any discussion on the 2025-2026 water service charge adjustment?
Other than I appreciate all the work that the DPS team puts in.
Agreed.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Action item number 2. Back over to the DPS liaison.
Approve a sewer lining and structure rehab contract. I move that based on a recommendation of the Groseal Township engineers and Groseal DPS Commission, the Groseal Township Board approved the award of a contract to low bidder DVM for sewer lining and structure rehabilitation at a cost of $1,688,281 plus a 15% contingency, making the total contract cost $1,941,523.15. The history and second, thank you. The history and purpose and explanation. This is a rebid of the 2024 sewer lining and manhole rehab project. The attached project list shows the project locations. These locations were prioritized via the sewer assessment management plan that was recently completed. This project will be partially funded, 80%, 80-20, through a grant from the United States Environmental Protection Agency. The work is to take place in August 2025 through April 2026. And the financial impact is this is in the 2025-26 fiscal year budget. And Derek, would you like to add?
Yes, thank you for the introduction to the action item and the motion. Just wanted to go over a couple of different items with regards to this action item, and primarily for the board, but also the residents as far as an understanding for what the scope of this work is. There are 3 different components. I've got 3 very short videos that I wanted to show that kind of emphasize or illustrate the work that they're going to be doing. The first component or first work process will be the lining of sanitary sewer lines throughout the community using a cured-in-place liner. The second scope will be actually spot lining for specific areas that have a fault. And then the third is going to be manhole rehabilitation, and there's specific methods that were outlined in the project scope that they'll show on this video. As the treasurer had mentioned, the locations that have been prioritized come from our asset management plan, which was recently completed. The engineers designed the project with the highest priority areas in mind, and those are indicated on the maps that were included in the action items, so you can see where we're doing work. So with that, I'd like to show just a couple quick videos for the benefit of the public and the board, so you guys understand exactly what the scope of the work is that they're going to be doing.
Derek, can I ask a
want me to
really
play
quick
that?
question?
Absolutely.
Why did this get rebid?
So the first time we bid, I think we had 2, maybe 3 bidders, and the low bidder backed out of their bid.
Okay.
So I think that they were concerned, maybe after seeing the other bid result, how much money they had left on the table. And we've actually submitted a request for their bid bond.
Okay.
Because when we request bids, normally on larger projects, we'll ask that you submit insurance, basically, that says that you'll hold to your bid. There's a lot of cost that goes into the bid process. So with that investment, we want to make sure that the price that is offered, that you hold that price. If you back out on your bid, we can then pull on that insurance policy to at least help cover the cost of a rebid.
The rebid,
Yes.
okay,
So
okay.
what happened with the first one, to answer your question, simply, they pulled their bid. So we went back out and rebid, and we did get actually more bidders the second time that we went out.
Okay.
And there was, they were all pretty close in their bid amounts. I think 1.6, 1.7, which is the one we're considering as a low bid, up to like 2.4, 2.5, something like that. So they're all pretty close to the engineer's estimate.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. It is going to be.
So love how excited you are about this, Derek.
It is, it's exciting stuff.
Throughout this project, there's many different manholes, and every manhole has different characteristics inside it. Some are made of brick, block, precast. Throughout all these different types of manholes, the process mainly stays the same. We take our grinder to the top, removing all of the rust from the area. What this does is it gives us a good clean surface for our polyurea to stick to. We get our 3,000 to 4,000 PSI pressure washer out, and we pressure wash the walls with a rotary tip. It removes any loose sediment from the walls and makes it so that we have a good, strong substrate to get to. And we get all the debris off of the bottom, get it out of the trough. We rinse it down, get it all good to go. Through our drying process, we use a carpet blower, and we have forced air heaters. Helps pick up the speed a little bit more. It's not necessary, but it just helps us get production up. Once that's done, we check for leaks. If there's leaks, we go through one of the leak stopping procedures. OBIC has its own line of grout products that we use. Some have expansions of up to 6,000%. Once all these leaks are stopped, we will clean up any type of material we have left down there, re-dry the whole area, and then we'll start our lining process. The primer helps the lining system to adhere to that metal better. So we'll start from the top, put the first couple layers on from above, and then our OBIC certified applicator will get inside the hole with all the safety protective gear on, and it'll begin to apply the system throughout. It'll be applied all the way down to the water line inside the structure, and this will create a monolithic lining system that will protect all of the substrate inside of the structure. The OBIC armor system is a multi-layer system. The materials set up within 30 seconds of application. We don't have to shut off the manhole for multiple hours. We don't have to wait for it to dry. All OBIC lining materials are 1-to-1 ratio materials, which creates a contractor-friendly application.
So that's the first project they'll be doing. That'll be the lining of the manhole structures. And the reason that we do this is if a structure is not solid, you get a lot of infiltration into that manhole of groundwater, which then ultimately goes to the plant, and we have to treat that. Not to mention that they fall apart and they start, creating sinkholes and things of that sort, or rims start falling down. So it's very critical to keep those manhole structures in good shape. When we did the asset management plan for the sanitary sewer system, they looked at every single manhole, sanitary sewer manhole in the system, and identified the worst ones, and those are the ones we're going to be working on under this project.
Every single one on that map, like all those areas, they were going in and checking to
Yep.
come up with.
Yep, we actually
Wow,
have
that's a lot of
every
work.
single structure in the entire sanitary sewer system not only inspected, videotaped, they have pictures of all of them, and then they use a nationally universal scoring methodology for condition assessment for each one of those structures. So you can just pick up a report and identify anybody that's trained, identify what exactly is going on with that structure, the condition, and what work might need to be done with that.
How often do you have to do that, Derek?
We're on a rotating 5-year schedule.
Yeah.
So, yep,
Okay.
every 5 years we're through an area. We completed our first assessment I believe it was last year, and we've restarted that 5-year process. So actually, we're down at the north end of the island, starting with the reassessment of the system.
2 questions.
Yes.
How long does this lining last? What is the anticipated useful life of this update, repair, whatever?
A lot of these lining systems are new, but newer, but 30 plus years, they're a pretty significant system. Yep.
Now, they are going on an existing structure,
Yes.
and they somehow check those structures to make sure they're sound or have a way to refurbish them so that they have added strength?
Yeah, so, I mean, most of these are block structures. So as the video indicates, they'll patch up areas that maybe have voids, or they'll fix areas that aren't ready to be lined. And once that work is complete, then they'll line it to make sure everything's solid and complete.
This is taking care of the
Secure.
fact that soils could shift or sink over time? and
Yes.
then-
Yep.
Okay.
So the second system, and this one doesn't have narration to it, but it's a lining system. And what happens is the vendor will come along, they'll insert a line down the pipe, and if you have a void or a fault somewhere within that line, they bring in like an inflatable piece of liner that'll inflate in the area of the fault. It's a structural patch, and basically lines that specific section. So here's just a quick illustration of how that occurs. And then the method for which they use in that spot liner we'll go into in the next video. More detailed explanation of that. So this is your liner. It's usually a flat piece of fabric that has a resin on it. They insert it into the pipe, put it in the location of the issue, inflate it so it takes the inside of the pipe. They heat it, and then it cures, and then they pull the apparatus back out. And now you have a new structural liner in the area of the pipe that you had the fault at. So that's another method that we're going to be using, and that's just for spot repairs. That way you don't have to line the whole stretch of pipe. You can just address the one small area that may
Germans
be
have
of
figured
issue.
out a way to increase water
What
pressure
if they
by
put a
15
camera through
times
there?
without
Like,
using
how
any
could they
energy.
identify that it?
They do. So we have cleaned and televised the entire system through that 5-year process. So we have video of all the faults, all the areas that need work, worst, conditioned pipe. So we have a thorough assessment of everything that needs work.
Derek, what's the life expectancy of these type of repairs?
Up to 100 years potentially.
Really?
Yep.
All right.
And here's a better example of, on a complete length of pipe, how they do the lining.
We're down in the southwest part of Blaine, and we're going to take a look at a process we're using to replace some of our older sewer lines. The sewer lines that are down here in this part of town, and this is our oldest part of town, are in the neighborhood of 40 plus years old. They're the old clay tile type sewer pipe, and it has a usable lifetime of about 40 years. So it's time for us to replace them. In the past, when we had to replace sewer lines, it would involve ripping up the entire street and putting in the new pipe and then rebuilding the street over it. However, we're using some new technology to replace these lines that involves injecting a resin into the pipe and then letting it cure. Costs a lot less money and takes a lot less time. With me today is Anthony Adderhold with the company In Situ Form, and they are doing the work for us down here, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the process that they're using. First of all, Anthony, welcome to Blaine. Thank you for seeing us today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, and I would love to explain the process.
All right, thank you.
Once we identify where the project's going to be, we'll get a contractor out. They will do a pre-cleaning of the sewer line. And while they're pre-cleaning the sewer line, they're identifying and measuring the lengths, the inside diameters, and locating where all the services, the private services are to the homes or businesses. Once we get those lengths back from the contractor that did the pre-cleaning, we'll custom manufacture these tubes. And these tubes consist really of two parts. There's a polyester felt, that's what this part is. Then there's a polypropylene liner. And that's what's probably going to be hard to see on the camera, but it's a smooth surface that ultimately gives you a faster flowing, smoother walled pipe once it's completed. Once the tube is designed and manufactured, it's then shipped off to our wet out facility, which for us is Indianapolis. It's then impregnated with a resin. For the project in Blaine, we're impregnating with a polyester resin, which is a standard gravity tube resin. It's impregnated with the resin. It's then put into a refrigerated truck where it needs to be below 33 degrees. Otherwise, the exothermic reaction starts. If anybody uses JB Weld, you notice how you mix the two products together and it starts to create heat. We need to keep it below 33 so that that resin does not get hard. It has a pot life of about 30 days once it's in that refrigerated truck, and we maintain that 33 degrees. Once it's on the site, we'll pull it off the truck, and it's actually coming off the truck inside out. So the wetted perimeter, which is the polypropylene liner, is on the outside. We'll put it through our what we call the chip unit, and that's actually our inversion unit. And if anybody folds their socks up in a ball, when we're unfolding the socks, that's really what the inversion process is. So if you can see this in the camera, when we're inverting it inside out, or turning it inside out, that's actually the inversion process. So now you have your polypropylene liner on the inside. We invert it the full length of that shot, usually from manhole to manhole. And in the case that you can see behind me, we're inverting this right now with air. And we will then cook it or cure it out with steam, usually at about a temperature of 240 degrees, and we're keeping it at a consistent pressure of about 7 to 15 psi. For a 4 to 500 foot shot, we cure it for about 2 hours. And once it's cured out, you get a product that looks exactly like this. It's a fully structural product that if that old VCP or vitrified clay pipe goes away, you're good to go. And once we're done curing it out, we will then identify again where those laterals are to each home, and we'll remotely cut those surfaces back open with a robot. And ultimately, that's it in a nutshell.
And can you tell me what is the lifespan of the new pipe? Old standard sewer pipe used to have a lifespan of about 40, maybe 50 years. How long will this last?
What we've been finding actually is clay pipe truly probably 30 years. It's a great pipe, but it's very susceptible to root intrusion. This actually has a design life of over 100 years. So it's very similar to a PVC pipe that a lot of communities are utilizing now in newer construction. 100 years, we actually just recently, In Situ Form, little background information, In Situ Form invented the product back in 1971. Just 3 weeks ago, we actually, company-wide, we looked at some video of some cured-in-place pipe that we installed back in '72, and it looks the exact same way it did the day we installed it. So that's a good sign. 38 years later, it looks the exact same way. It looks like we're going to make that 100-year design life.
With the old way we used to replace sewer pipes, again, we had to rip up the whole street. How much tear-up is involved with this kind of process?
Ultimately, zero. We're entering each line from the manholes. We're going to install it from manhole, the upstream manhole down to the downstream manhole. And so theoretically, you have zero invasiveness to the surface.
And when we had to tear them up, it might take us maybe to do a few block section, a couple of months. Start to finish, how long does this process take?
Because the cleaning process is a separate process for us, the cleaning process probably takes about an hour to 2 hours, and then we'll come in at a separate date. But once we're actually starting the lining process, once we're set up and we're doing the inversion and the curing and the cutout, about 4 hours for a 400 to 500 foot shot.
And can you talk a little bit about the cost of doing this versus the old way that we used to do sewer pipe? I imagine with not having to tear the street up and all of that kind of construction, this is substantially less expensive?
It is substantially less expensive. Previously, when the materials were more expensive and there was less competition, of course, this price was a little bit higher for the cured-in-place pipe. But current market conditions, this is averaging anywhere from $20 to $30 a lineal foot, and you're looking at a cost compared to open cut and street reconstruction about 10 to 20% of a reconstruction cost. So there's substantial savings up to 80 to 90%.
That's impressive. That's impressive. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us. I just want to tell you that over the next few years.
So that is the third method that they're going to be using, and that's for like whole pipe rehab. So, and as was mentioned on the video, the cost is substantially less versus an open cut, and it's a lot less impactful to the resident. So generally your sewer service might be out of service for, maybe a day or so, while the pipe is curing and before they come in and cut out your lateral, or your tap to your main or to your service line. But we'll advise residents if, when we're working in that area to make sure they're aware of what precautions they need to take to make sure they don't have problems at the home. So.
Did you say what period of time? Because this is a lot of work. So over what period of time?
It'd be August through April of next year.
Okay.
Yep.
Is this the entire system of our drainage pipes that this project will encompass?
So, like I mentioned earlier, we had an asset management plan, an inventory of our entire system that we formulated over a 5-year process.
So this is a step along the way.
Correct. So, they prioritized certain repairs based upon the condition of the pipe, the criticality of the pipe, to different areas of town. Let's just say you have 15 homes on a specific line that's in poor condition versus having one home on a piece of pipe. They're going to prioritize the one that serves 15 people. So they went through the entire asset inventory, used the asset management plan and the priorities that they laid out to prioritize the work that they're going to be doing under this contract. So a portion of the system.
So the diagram you provided to all of us, that pretty much outlines it all?
Correct.
Thank
and
you.
There's different, I think, information on there about what they're doing in certain areas. So some is manhole structure rehabilitation, some are spot repairs, and some are complete lining.
Yep. Okay.
But when it's done, the entire system will have had attention.
Well, the areas that we're working on will have had attention.
Over a 5-year period.
Well, the entire system would have been inventoried over a 5-year period. Yes. Is that what the question is?
No.
Okay. So we inventoried we televised and cleaned the entire system over a 5-year period of time. We took all that information and built it into an asset management plan. This work is the first step in that asset management plan. We'll go through every 5 years and inventory the entire system, and that asset management plan will be updated with that new information. So as these priorities drop off, new priorities will come on. So as we work through the entire system to make sure that all areas have been addressed that need to be addressed.
So Bill, if you go through your packet, there's a diagram in there and it outlines all the areas that Derek's saying are being covered.
It's outlined in
Saw
red.
that. Take a second.
You can scroll up and down.
So it looks a little bit like this. So this is the north end of the island. The areas in red are the areas that they're going to be working. South end of the island, once again, the areas in red are the areas that they're going to be working. So you can see, we are going to be, or the contractor will be throughout the community doing work. So we haven't focused on one area, we focused on the priority areas. And the priorities are all across the island.
Is there any further discussion on the sewer line repairs?
No, it's impressive though. Thank you.
And just to reiterate, about 80% of this project cost will be covered through a grant, actually an appropriation that the township received a couple of years ago. We have to cover 20% of the expense as well as the engineering expense, but obviously that 8% helps us substantially with the cost of this.
When you look at the diagram, it does speak to the amount of work that you know, that everybody does put in on this, so it's appreciated.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
back over to Mr. Flavin for another DPS action. The action item number 3, I believe.
I would like to make a motion based upon a recommendation of the Grosse Ile Department of Public Service Commission that the Grosse Ile Township Board authorize a contract with Kennedy Industries for the replacement of level indicators and main computer systems at 4 of the 5 sanitary lift stations at a cost of $67,600.
Second.
Thank you. This work would involve the replacement of the main computer systems and level sensors at 4 of the 5 sanitary lift stations. The East River Lift Station and radar level indicator for Elba Island, or Elba number 1, has already been replaced, thus only 4 of 5 being included in this action item. This is a sole source provider, as Kennedy is the only vendor in the area who does this kind of work on, Derek,
Flight?
flight?
Yes.
Flight multi-smart lift stations, regional flight vendor, service entity. Others could perform the work, but on different brands of equipment, not flight. This involves replacing like for like with the computer systems and level indicators, other than an upgrade to radar level indicators. And Derek, would you like to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure.
Please.
Was there a second?
Yes.
Okay. So in certain areas of the community, it's primarily in the south end of the island, we have elevation problems. Obviously, a sanitary sewer system normally flows by using elevation to move material. In areas where the elevation of that area of town is potentially lower than the plant is, we actually have to physically lift the material, the sanitary material, up and into an area where gravity can then carry it. These pump stations have controls in them that identify when the pumps need to turn on and when they need to turn off. And a lot of the ones that we have in our systems are, all the ones in the systems that we have here at the south end of the community are old, and we've been noticing failures with those. As a matter of fact, that's why one of them has already been replaced. That was replaced under an emergency, because obviously if the pump isn't sensing that the well is filled and doesn't turn on, then obviously we end up with basement backups. So basically this is a budgeted item. It was something that was included under our capital budget for this year to replace these, to make sure that they're reliable and that the pumps turn on when they're supposed to turn on. So
It's like sump pumps.
they could be considered something like that, but just 100 times bigger.
A
So
mega sump pump.
what's that?
A mega sump
A mega
pump.
sump pump. So they're concrete vaults with usually 2 pumps in them and a control panel. If you drive over to Elba Island, you'll see there's one on the right side. That's the one that's already been replaced. We have backup generators at each one of these pumps that turn on if there's obviously a power outage. And we have, if anybody lives on Swan Island, there's one actually all the way on the north end of the island. So we have them in a variety of different areas. So, and then Veolia does manage these for us. So they do inspect them, make sure they're operating correctly. When we have a storm event, they go out and check these locations and make sure they're functioning correctly.
And the consequences, or the consequence of these not working is?
Basement backup. So basically, if they don't move the sewage, then the sewage will back up into basements and into homes, just because, once again, they don't operate under gravity, hence the need for these pump locations.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion on the pump station level indicator repairs? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, so this next motion, which is action item number 5, is in your packet, a contract extension for Compeau Brothers Excavating. So Kevin, who's bringing this motion forward, is actually going to propose a different motion, which is within his purview, right? So what we state verbally are the actual motions, not necessarily what's in the packet. So if you don't like what Kevin's proposing, we can vote it down and revert to the original agenda item. It would just probably be proposed by someone else. So go ahead, Kevin.
So what I would like to make a motion that the Groseal Board competitively bid for the township excavating contract, which includes a variety of excavation work. For instance, water main and service line repairs, trenching and excavating, and sewer main repairs.
Okay, so this would need a second.
Second.
Okay.
The reason that I'm suggesting we do this is the original contract with Compeau Brothers Excavating was done in 2020, and there have been, I believe, 2 additional.
I think the original term was 3 years, and there were 2 one-year options.
So the best practice for these kind of services is that a township go out and rebid those projects anywhere in the 3rd to 6th year. Some folks do it a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, but to follow the best practices, I think now is a good time to put it out to bid. So, thank you.
Okay, any discussion?
I have a question.
So we'll recognize Bill.
This contract was originally, if I heard correctly, stable or agreed to for something like 3 years with 2 one-year extensions.
Correct.
And this is one of those 2 one-year extensions or the final extension?
The second extension expires at the end of June.
So it'll be all, the whole thing will have been completed by the end of June.
Correct.
This then would become effective at that point to extend.
So next month is when the new one would take effect, right? It expires this month?
Correct, yes. Yep.
And it's been a flat rate for 8 years?
It would be 8 years if the 3-year extension was approved by the board,
Okay.
as this is written. Yes.
Okay.
And that's the recommendation, that we take that eighth year, if I've got this straight.
Well, I think the motion on the board is to competitively bid it, so that's, I don't know if that's what we have to discuss, is
I mean, the
the
way I see
consideration.
it, there's a couple of thoughts here. I've been here listening on various board comments about bids from other projects. And sometimes we don't get anybody because the same guy's got it all the time. So there's something to be said to follow a good practice because you just don't know. I mean, the only thing I can think of as an example, this flight thing we were talking about before, that brand has something unique that we have to adhere to. There might be somebody that comes up with something new that has something special to it that we'd want to know about. I don't know what it is. I'm talking about an abstract concept here. But I like the idea of competitive bids, but they're not going to work unless we actually have opportunity for those who compete. I mean, it costs money to put a bid together, but if they know they don't have a chance, they won't submit one. So I think there's strength in this.
So,
Okay.
are you
Hold
done?
on, Margaret, or I'm sorry, Mickey wanted to jump in here.
I'm sorry, Margaret, I was signaling them
Yeah.
at the same time.
She was poking me.
So, just when I used to bid things at work, if they will continue it and it's the same rates and they've been a fantastic partner, this is a gift. I mean, I don't think we ever turned down one where the rates were level and we were satisfied, because you can 3-bid it and they might come in a little lower, but the odds are they won't give you the same level of service that you have, and they'll have startup costs and time and everything else. So to me, this is like a present with a big bow on it.
There's nothing stopping you from making that same choice. When you have the option to have a bid, you can get some information.
Well, with the bid, they'll incur expenses.
Yes, I know that.
So they may not come back and say, we'll give you flat rates. So that's the risk with it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just
I'm
saying
not saying
there
you're
is a
wrong
risk.
either.
Right.
There's a choice here, and
Right.
it's been why don't we do this? We just take this 8th year and extend it and put bids out next year. That would take care of that.
Well, I think it's a 3-year, their intention is a 3-year extension?
That's what they had offered. I mean, obviously, it's the pleasure of the board if you guys wanted to
3
consider
years at the
something other
same
than
rates
that.
they had in 2020?
We're correct, which is why, to Mickey's point, it's a gift. I'm
That part I didn't
misunderstanding this need to bid out again when we're saying, and it's a common thing, they're prompt, they're responsive, they're qualified, they're capable, and they're competent, right? This is right in the packet, and I would agree with that since we've apparently been using them since 2020. Now, if we were to go out for bid again, then they're more than capable of bringing their rates up much higher to match 2025 rather than, providing us motivation to extend their contract by maintaining that rate. And I'm misunderstanding the reason to do this. I don't see that as a best practice in this situation, based on the fact that we know that they're good at what they do. They're giving us a very good rate, and it just fiscally does not even compute for me. I consider it a gift, what they're providing.
So let me hear from Mark, and then we'll give you a rebuttal. Mark, do you have something? I see over there gears turning away. You seconded this, so.
I would agree with extending it for a year and maybe going out for open bid. I understand what both the other trustees are saying.
But did they say?
But can I finish,
3 years?
please?
You can, but
Please.
I don't think 1 year is on the table.
We'd have to ask him.
I'm all set. I think we should extend it a year and then go out for bid.
Okay,
During that year period,
so you're looking for a compromise.
yes.
Okay. All right, Kevin, you want to respond to any of that?
As I'm familiar with the work that the Compeau brothers do. I have no problem with what they have done for the township. I appreciate all of the things they have done for the township. I do think that as the treasurer, it's my fiduciary responsibility that there are best practices to follow. And one of them is to go out to bid for services on a regular basis. And the board can decide what that regular basis is at their pleasure. But today, this situation is, this has been the same contract for 5 years, and it is a best practice according to Michigan Township Association, a best practice by the Municipal League for townships, cities, villages, that you go out to bid. Could the situation be where we would have a higher bid? Yes. Is there a situation where we could have a lower bid? Yes. So I'm asking or suggesting as a best practice that this is what we consider.
Are you interested in doing a 1 year of the amendment Mark proposed of a 1 year amendment? I'm sorry, a 1 year extension and then go out to bid? Are you interested in modifying your motion?
We would have to find out if Compeau is willing to do that.
And we could make it contingent upon their acceptance.
Mm-hmm. I will come back and say that the best practice is that you go out to bid, the 5th or 6th year. That's suggested. So I would be asking that this be bid, if we put an amendment in, that this be bid next year at this time, because that will have been a full 6 years.
Okay, so you're willing to accept the amendment to extend it for 1 year in contingent upon Compeau Brothers accepting that and contingent upon the fact that we conduct bidding at this time next year?
Yes, please.
Can I
Thank you.
add to that? as opposed to waiting till next year to put the bid out, like sometime between now and next year, do it.
Yeah,
So
I
we
mean,
have something
probably-
ready at the expiration of this particular.
4 months out.
Yeah.
Okay. So you accept that?
I do.
So, Brian, do you need a rebuilt motion? Okay. So where's your original motion?
Up here.
Up there. Okay.
Is this a friendly amendment then? Just wanna
It is,
understand
because
what
he's
we're
making,
doing.
Yes.
they were the proposer and the second, I guess proposer isn't the right word, the sponsor and the
So,
support, so.
so what I'm saying is I move that the Groseal Board competitively, what I said was I moved that the Groseal Board competitively bid the excavating contract, and we can amend that to say we accept, or we will extend the contract, if they are willing to, we will extend the contract 1 year and bid the contract out in 2026.
Hold on, I'm building it for you, Brian.
Jameson, what happens if they say no? Does this expire at the end of this month? And when's our next board meeting?
The 9th. So it would expire, I don't know if there's any work scheduled.
You just go to like a month-to-month agreement and then bring it back, but.
Okay.
Yep. My expectation is they would be fine with the 1 year.
Okay.
Yep. I don't see that being a problem.
I think it's such a mistake to do this, to not accept this, just for fiscal purposes.
I'm sorry, I was elected by the taxpayers to worry about the fiscal purposes, and
Well, then we're
I
handing
think-
money back potentially.
Yeah.
you're also potentially finding a better contract.
I think we're dealing with conjecture here. I mean, the point of the matter is that,
It's conjecture in both directions.
exactly, that you don't know till you get a bid. And the point is that I think that there's a point that Kevin is making that is true. It's a good business practice. And when you have, I've seen a number of occasions where 7 requests were made and only 1 came back, that we have put ourselves in a position there when we need to avoid. And that is, call it a fiduciary responsibility of this board to get the best thing we can get. Compeau is very competent. We know them. There's nothing stopping us from choosing them again.
Well, I think that we've all established our positions. So the current motion is that the Groseal Township Board extend the current contract for 1 year contingent upon Compeau Brothers acceptance, and that this board will competitively bid it no later than 4 months before the end of the extended contract.
Excellent.
Second.
Well, you're
Do we need
the,
a
that's you,
second?
no, that's you.
Yes.
I just restated it for you.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm going to do a roll call because I don't think ayes and nays are going to work for this one. So remember, if you vote aye, that we'll request to extend the contract for 1 year and we'll have to competitively bid it 8 months from now, barring another board action saying we're not going to competitively bid it 8 months from now. So Margaret,
No.
Mark,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Mickey.
No.
Okay, guys. I'm gonna say yes. Actually, it doesn't matter because it's 3-3, isn't it?
No, it's 4-2.
No.
4-3. Okay, good. All right.
We need
Well,
4.
I'm
Put
gonna
to bed.
I'm gonna ask that if we're gonna do this, that when those bids come in, that we show this original number of what Compeau was stating that they would give us for another 3-year extension versus those next round of bids.
I would like to see that as well.
I think we just
Agree.
made a huge mistake.
All right.
Okay, what's the next one?
So the next one is action item number 6, which is broadcasting the interviews of the Bridge Commission. I don't want to limit anyone's time, but I would request that we all stay laser focused on the issue, which is the merits of broadcasting it or not broadcasting it, as opposed to what should have, could have, or has happened. So I believe Mark, did you sponsored this, didn't you? Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I
So-
seconded it.
Okay, so the action is to not broadcast the bridge interviews. So remember, voting positively means we will not broadcast the interviews. So go ahead, Mark. You can,
There's no more discussion here?
this is your, unless you want me to take the,
No, I mean, are we gonna have any more discussion? No, I think there needs,
yeah, that's what we're doing. You're
right,
starting
okay,
the
I just wanna make
discussion.
sure that I
Yeah.
didn't know if you, okay.
Yep.
No, I think it should be recorded for administrative purposes, but not necessarily broadcast at this point, since the first meeting cannot be broadcast. I'm trying to make it fair across the board for everybody. So record, yes, broadcast, no.
Okay.
Mr. Clerk, just, this is an action item, so we're going to need a motion in a second
Okay,
to
all right,
get
all
into
right.
this.
So the motion,
I'll second it so we can kick the football off.
I move to not broadcast the interviews for the Bridge Commission conducted by this board. And
But
Bill is the
we would take, photograph it or record it.
this is strictly broadcasting it. Okay. It's recorded either way, right? So, because it's a board meeting for us, with the exception being closed sessions. So,
Okay, so you move that it not be
broadcast.
broadcast. And do you still second, Bill?
Yes, we'll run it this way this time, but I definitely want a file that is available for the future.
Okay. So I'm going to start with Margaret, and we'll just go down the line to keep this organized. Unless you're not ready.
You mean to vote or?
No. You can. What do you got?
I don't align with having interviews broadcast or recorded in general. I feel that these are
Well,
volunteers. They're not interviewing for a job, and I would be horrified to have that recorded, quite frankly. And I just think we're not giving them the respect that they truly deserve for coming forward as volunteers. That's my point of view.
Okay. So in lieu of Kevin, I'll provide my piece. So I understand what you're saying, Margaret. I get what you're saying, Mark, about fairness and the first half not being broadcast. I'm a little bit of in my opinion, the people that we're interviewing are extremely qualified, right? They are, probably like top 10 in their industries, right? So I actually think recording and broadcasting interviews would give the public a sense of confidence, right? That it's not just
I agree with that.
Township board up here picking, the folks that we drink beer with on Sunday morning to, come up here and be on the Bridge Commission. So, not that I drink beer on Sunday morning. I should have said play golf with on Sunday morning or something. But so I actually think that it would provide a lot of confidence to the public that, hey, we're doing a really good job of looking into these people and talking with them. I understand that interviewing can be nerve-wracking. I understand that, especially if they don't know that they're going to be recorded ahead of time, that can certainly create all kinds of problems, and we've definitely discussed that already. But I think there's some merit in it. I do think it provides the public with a sense of reassurance that this Bridge Commission is going to be the most excellent commission that ever commissioned, right? So I'm for it. I think that it's a good practice in this particular case, right? Do I think we need to be interviewing every single commissioner in front of the Township Board of Trustees and broadcasting it? No, but I think this is such a massive, unprecedented enterprise that it makes sense to me that we give the public the reassurance that, hey, these are the best 5 people in Grosse Ile to do this job. So, and then I'll turn it over to Mickey. We'll loop you back in.
So based on how the last ones went, and having 2 of the most qualified people out there willing to be on a commission and not charge us for their work, the fact that they were embarrassed the way that the whole meeting went, I absolutely do not think it should be televised. I think they deserve apologies and lesson learned. Now, going forward, I think people should absolutely watch the Bridge Commission meetings. I think they're going to be very impressed. I can't believe the quality of the people that we have here in Grosse Ile. But I do not think this one should be televised.
Okay. Bill, I know you had some comments.
Yeah, I agree basically, Jameson, with the point you were making. And there's reasons for that I think are that have merit. this commission, with the questions we were asking, if presented to the public, shows that things could be contentious. And I think it's fair to ask somebody if they're wanting to withstand that contention. But in addition, these people display their skills. And we have a lot of people right now who are not up to speed on what this bridge implies, how costly some of the work is, why the tolls are necessary for what they are is one of the examples. The reason they have value in storage is that we could rebroadcast them on occasion, simply to say, look, this is something you do not necessarily understand, but we have chosen some really smart people to help make this thing work. And that should hopefully, if you understand, bring a certain element of reassurance to you. In a lot of this situation, we're asking people to understand and accept. We're not asking them to like. And when you have people who are qualified presenting themselves and what projects they have participated in, and when they understand that the pressures there are real or potentially real, that we're doing this community a service and understanding and accepting this challenge.
Okay. Kevin? Everybody else but you.
I did, when the other folks interviewed at the last meeting, I asked every one of those individuals if they minded being recorded and having the recording played back to the public. And all three of them said they did not have a problem with that. Our community is a lot of senior citizens who are not able to get out of their home, who don't always have a ride to Township Hall, who do watch and count on finding out about their local government through what we do here and recording it and playing it back. And they can watch it at their leisure, and I think that is very positive. We are small enough and large enough that it's expensive to put out newspaper or printed material discussing all of this. So really, video and rebroadcasting is probably one of the best values that we have. I also, having gone to the police chief, when they interviewed the police chief candidates, I thought that those individuals that interviewed for that job were very good, they really put out information that I thought was of value to the community. The same thing, unfortunately, I was not the same with the police commission. I was not able to attend those meetings. And that's just an example. If you can't attend a particular meeting and you would like to hear what they have to say, it does help that way. There has been, putting folks on the spot and not being courteous and not, a variety of adjectives and have been used. I think that the people that were here, last time, I think the township and our taxpayers would be proud of those individuals who came up and spoke. Some people do not want to get up and speak in front of the public. I understand that. There are other jobs and positions in township government that they could volunteer for. I am very appreciative of everybody that takes the time, fills out an application, and is willing to get up in front of the group. So with that said, I am supporting that whenever we have the opportunity, we should and can videotape, video record, and play it back for the community. It is, as I said when I was running, I am looking for more open, transparent government, and that's the way I define it, as where people can hear what is being said at the meetings. Thank you.
Okay, is there any follow-ups?
Yes.
Okay,
So I want to be really clear because we seem to come back to public safety as one of those commissions that supposedly needs special attention. The DPS commission also recently interviewed for a new commissioner. So did BPAC, so did Greenways and Open Space, so did REC, and nobody bats an eyelash for those.
well,
What-
just as a point of order, the only reason we're doing this right now is because we as a board interviewed them. If we
And
didn't,
I-
if we used a subcommittee, we wouldn't.
I totally understand that, which
Yeah.
is why I'm glad you're saying that, because that's what I want to make sure we're clear on. So the police commission followed our policy. I've said this before, and I feel the need to say it again. We followed a policy. We had our chairperson, we had our department manager, and myself interview all applicants. And let me emphasize yet again, all. Because other commissions chose not to interview all, even though they had a small amount of applicants. So we interviewed everybody. Then we took that round and we brought it into our commission, which is an open meeting. Those were discussed during that open meeting, and we made a decision at that time. So I just want to make it clear that everybody understands, to Jameson's point, that the reason we were doing something slightly differently for the Bridge Commission is because it's the board doing that. But nothing was done incorrectly during the Police Commission, during the Fire Commission. That's just all a matter of another person's opinion. So I don't believe that, public exposure for the sake of performative accountability is of any use to any volunteer. That's my point of view.
Okay, so
So if I can just say one thing.
you can. I would like to remind everybody, and all of us, let's stay focused on the current issues. So, but go ahead.
My only comment is because of the bad behavior, we lost two of the most qualified. It took me 45 minutes on the phone to get the one to say, okay, I will do it. So just keep in mind, if it's televised and it's a sign of bad faith, and we may lose some. So they may not all interview on Wednesday. So we can decide what we want, but then they can decide whether they want to be a part of
That's
this
fair.
or not.
True.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to respond to that.
Is it regarding broadcasting the current thing we're discussing?
I'm not sure.
If you guys
Well-
want to discuss further some
Well,
of the policies
Miss-
and procedure stuff, we
Miss-
can do that in reports.
Miss Bartlett
It's Mrs.
said that there was bad behavior.
Well,
I'm assuming you're speaking about me, Miss Bartlett, and
it still misses.
Mrs. Bartlett, I'm sorry. I think that's uncalled for. Thank you.
Okay, so any further discussion on previous board actions or statements, I would like to please limit to your reports, where you can talk as long as you want about anything you want. So,
I call the question.
okay, I am going to vote last on this one because I don't want to be a tiebreaker if that's the case. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to vote first on this one. That's the opposite of not being a tiebreaker. So,
Does the supervisor vote? Isn't there a
I don't
rule?
know. Is
that
there a
Joe
rule
always
that the
has to vote
supervisor has
last?
to vote last?
What difference does it make? We're going to have the votes.
Yeah, the person running the meeting is supposed to.
Vote last? All right, well, I'll vote last.
Would
then.
you read the motion again, just so
I
we
will.
have it?
So, this is a motion to not broadcast the interviews for the Bridge Commission that were conducted by and will be conducted by this board. So if you vote aye, we will not broadcast them. If you vote no, we will broadcast them.
I needed to be clear on
Yeah,
that.
it's inverted. So,
Thank you.
yep. All right, I'll start on the right this time. Bill,
No,
Mickey,
Aye.
Kevin?
Broadcasting?
Yes, so if you vote no, it will be broadcast. If you vote yes, it won't.
No.
Okay? Mark?
Aye.
Aye.
I will vote yes. So that should be 4.
4-2.
4 to 2 in the positive to not broadcast the meeting. So, okay.
But it will be recorded.
It should be recorded, assuming all of our equipment is working properly. So,
Yeah, that's,
so that completes action items. We're gonna get into reports. Does anybody need like a 5-minute recess real quick? I know we've been at it an hour and a half now, so everyone's good? All right, we'll start with the clerk's report, who is also me. The Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee will not be meeting this month, and the Rec Commission will not be meeting in July. Their current meeting is scheduled for the 3rd of July, and Independence Day is immediately following that. Yeah, we've already had a meeting this month, so I don't have anything significant to report for my commissions. Have a happy 4th of July and happy birthday, America. I'll be followed by the treasurer.
The treasurer's report. There we go. The 2025 tax session begins next week. Summer tax bills will be mailed out the first week of July and are payable from July 1st through September 15th. Beginning September 16th, late penalty charges will apply. Thank you to everybody for paying your taxes. All original tax bills are mailed to the property owner at the address that is on record. Mortgage companies that have requested tax bills will receive a duplicate copy. If you are a property owner and fail to receive your tax bill, please contact the treasurer's office. And happy 4th of July to all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mills.
The Zoning Board of Appeals will be having an appeal tomorrow at 6 p.m. The general meeting will be televised. The closed study session at 5:30 will not be televised due to attorney-client privilege. This is regarding the Gulf Shores Golf Course project. Not sure if anybody is aware of it or not, or who is or who isn't. It can be found online. Everything's there that we're going to talk about during the general meeting. Other than that, I have nothing else to report.
Okay. Ms. Shelton?
So I want to start out by thanking Mr. Friel for all of his work in communications. We've been discussing the options available for the Communication Commission before fully committing to filling that commission, and Brian has been putting a lot of effort into those discussions, but more specifically, he has put in so much work for the podcasts and making sure that the supervisor spotlights get out and doing so much with social media. And he really pushes out this information to all of our residents. And I just want to make sure that that's acknowledged because he coordinates a lot of content. An example would be Island Fest. He made sure that we had videos of the parade and, does the minutes for the board. And so I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank Brian for that. My other commission, the Police Commission, their next meeting is going to be July 15th. I want to point out that Dispatcher Erd has a book drive. And I know that this has been posted on Groseal Now, and I think it was also posted on the Township and Police pages. But I just want to remind everybody that you can drop books in the lobby of the Public Safety Building. There's a bin there. It's pre-K through 8th grade level books, and you can drop off those used books or new. My daughter's a little old at this point for books like this, so I purchased a couple from Amazon just because it's such a really good cause. So they can be used or they can be new, whatever the case is, and it's a really great cause. So I wanted to put it out there again, in case anybody's interested in dropping books off. The bridge closure started today. I just want to remind, and I did the last time, but it's really important because I spoke with the chief and the deputy chief, and it's really, really important that we use turn signals when we are, having traffic directed by police officers, whether it's on Groseal or whether it's on the Riverview side, in order for them to efficiently and safely. Their safety is extremely important. it's really good that you use your turn signal so they know how to efficiently guide you to your destination, and then they also know how to handle the traffic in the other directions. It's not as simple as some may think, and I just want to make sure that I remind everybody about that. Another item I want to talk about is I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but there was a shooting in Southgate. 2 Southgate officers were shot and injured. They're both fine, they're both home, and they're on the mend, but we participate in mutual aid, and we had 2 officers that went to support this incident in Southgate. And I just want to remind everybody that, again, we have 22 sworn officers. We have officers going on FMLA. We are going to be low staffed. We have our chief and our deputy chief and lieutenants working 16 plus hour days, multiple times per week. And with a bridge closure, that increases. They're doing so, they're taking shifts as if they were still on road patrol. Some people might diminish this and imply that our community is smaller, we don't have as many runs, it's not as big or significant as other downriver communities, and they would be incorrect. This is not Fantasy Island. What happened in Southgate can happen anywhere, including Groseal. And while we would always require mutual aid support in an incident like that, I just want to make sure everybody's aware that we've got to work together to maintain public safety. It's going to be coming up. We talk about it in our commission meetings, and I just want to point it out again. And finally, I just want to say, I believe in transparency, but not when it crosses the line into public exposure. Advocating for our volunteers by not televising their interviews does not mean we're not transparent. Those interviews are open meetings. Anybody can come and attend. Specifically, I will say interviews, and more importantly, interviews for our volunteers is something that I just don't feel should be televised. We don't need to make things more difficult for the person being interviewed. It's about making sure that people who are willing to give their time, and might I point out, free time, aren't discouraged from doing so just because the process to them or to others feels unnecessarily invasive or politicized.
All right. Thank you. Mrs. Bartlett?
Okay, so mine's on a different topic, and I was thinking that Supervisor Joe would be here, but I'll go ahead and say it anyways. I was thinking that in the future we may want to consider having a couple special meetings. One, because we're all fiduciaries, right? And so looking at the monthly agenda and what we get the cash payments. But I think it might be helpful to have one special meeting on all the type of reporting that we want, whether it's fund balances, where we are with the budget, how our investments are doing, what our cash flow is, how we are performing to benchmarks, and what kind of trends we're seeing, good or bad. Then I think the other one that would be helpful, if we had talked about some key goals and objectives earlier, but if we could actually nail those down in a special meeting, put timing together. For example, I would think we all want to look at the process for benchmarking salaries for staff. So, okay, when do we need to get started? Do we need outside help? Who's going to take the lead on it? So it's just a suggestion that I have, that we consider having a couple of special meetings to address both of these. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Heil.
The Planning Commission will soon be presenting the master plan, and we'll have opportunity for further review and progress with it. Island Athletics is a focus right now of the Airport Commerce Park Commission, and so too is Island, the runway 1735. As far as comments are concerned about the way we are treating people and what's going on, we need to realize that we're starting something here that hasn't been done before. We're not always going to do something that is perfect. We also need to understand that when people come up here and speak, They should understand that they're getting themselves into a position where they will be confronted by the public potentially. I think that the questions that we have asked are appropriate. There's nothing in them that I think impugns anybody's reputation or anything but to discover their abilities, and do they understand what this job involves? Do they understand how expensive it is to run a bridge? We need people who understand that and can have the understanding that they're volunteering for the pressures that this job might have because of the newness and the expense of this project. I hope that we find some way to take these meetings later on and give them to the public to see what fine people we have seen. I don't feel that when we present them to the public, there's anything that is there that demeans them. And it's their choice to do with whatever our conduct has been, when we need to respect that. I hope that we can find a way to remember that we have other things to address when this is over, that we continue to agree to respect one another, to cooperate with each other, because we have to make decisions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bill. Township Managers Report.
Teresa had actually asked me to present on the Island Fest budget recap for the year. So she generated this report and wanted me to go over it with the board. The top 5 lines or so here, 6 lines, are the revenues. You can see the various components of revenue within this budget. Food concessions, fundraiser events, carnival rides, special events, exhibitor fees, and contributions. These are the amounts generated for the year. This is your total, $87,435, which is about 88.77% of the budgeted amount of $98,500 for the year. And then these percentages here are how they did against the budgeted figure and if they overperformed or underperformed. These are your expenditures for the year, with your total being $83,634.94. And this is your bottom line, which is $3,800 more in revenue than expenditures, which then rolls over into next year's budget for the event. So that's the summary of the budget for this year and how Island Fest did. So are there any questions regarding that?
So, just so that the folks are clear that the Island Fest made $3,800 after expenses.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's always been the goal of Island Fest to make a little bit of money to seed next year, but not necessarily to make a windfall profit and try to, fill the township coffers. So I think this is from the Rec Commission's perspective, this is good performance. So.
As I believe a trustee had mentioned, I think it was maybe Margaret earlier, the toll bridge obviously is the only way on and off the island currently, with the free bridge closure starting today. So once again, as in the previous closure, just make sure to have patience and be polite to your fellow drivers, but also the staff up at the bridge. Hopefully this closure should be shorter than the last one. And I think without the bus traffic, because the schools are out, that's helping out some. I think we saw some of that today. But be patient, and hopefully we'll move through this couple of weeks here efficiently and be right back to using the free bridge here fairly shortly. So a couple of traffic updates or traffic notes that pertain to the toll bridge and the free bridge closure. DTE will be doing some gas main work on King Road eastbound from Fort Street to West Jefferson starting on Wednesday. So eastbound King Road will be closed starting on Wednesday, so do not use that route to access Jefferson as you come to the toll bridge.
Sibley's closed too.
Sibley is closed currently?
Yes.
I'm not aware that
Railroad track repairs.
Oh, is it? Okay. So, did they? And I got the notification about King Road from the DPS department at in Trenton. In addition to that, Trenton is going to be doing a water main project on Jefferson, but that will likely take place after the Free Bridge reopens. So I believe they were talking about July 7th to start that project, but they will be down to potentially one lane or closing one side of Jefferson, so your two-way traffic will be on the same side of the road. But hopefully that'll be after, the Free Bridge reopens. I've spoken with Greenways Open Space. Dump the Junk. They are still planning on doing one this year, potentially in early August, or if early August does not work, it'll be either late September or October, but more information after they meet and have a conversation about what exactly the date of that will be. And then last, to Trustee Bartlett's point, we did consult with Teresa and I had a conversation with a vendor for salary benchmarking and wage survey and scales, and we received a proposal actually today. So it might be wise, as you had mentioned, to have a study session to discuss that, and then potentially use that proposal to move forward on an RFP to make sure that we solicit the market with regards to those services. But we want to make sure that the entirety of the board, or at least the majority, is in favor of moving forward with that proposal. We have some estimated costs now. We have a good scope of work, and also some deliverables and timelines, so we understand now whether we can complete this work prior to the next budget cycle, which it looks like that's probably going to be the case, so long as we move forward with a decision on it sometime here in the near future.
That would be phenomenal.
Yeah. So maybe we can schedule that as a study session or something like that moving forward.
And in addition to that, Derek, so not only that project, but I always think of, you have that sliding scale for your different projects and when the timing will take place. So if we can start with all our objectives and, put that out over the next 4 years or 3.5 years, I guess, just to make sure we meet all our deliverables, that would be great. And thank you for getting a jump on their salaries, the
Sounds good.
benchmarking.
We'll talk further on that then, and that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I touch on something, Derek? I'm sorry. Regarding the bridge, for those who are not clear, coming southbound from Pennsylvania on Jefferson, there are not two turn lanes. There's one turn lane that you turn left onto the bridge. Unless there's an officer out there directing traffic. Going back to what Margaret said earlier, the turn signals are important. It's for the safety of everybody, officers and especially the officers out there on the street, but to all the other traffic, vehicular traffic going through there as well. So unless an officer is out there directing traffic for two lanes to turn left on southbound Jefferson from Pennsylvania, there's one turn lane. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to steal the supervisor's report, even though I can't do as good of a job as he does. So the bridge is closed. I know the township manager already discussed that. I did want to thank Grosse Ile PD. I know I saw the chief and the deputy chief out there this morning, and then Sergeant Darzniak and another officer out there this afternoon, both times when I came through, and they're all doing a great job of directing traffic. It was pretty hot this afternoon, so special thanks to those guys, because that was, I'm sure, a very miserable hour or two they spent out there. So Joe is out taking care of something. I'm sure he'll be back to do more supervisor spotlights shortly. I will not be filling in. So, and then I wanted to just bring up a couple things to the board regarding like not necessarily special meetings, but like working groups, right? So if Mickey and I strongly feel that, I don't know, every house in Grosse Ile needs to have a red roof, we can get together and do a working group to create something to bring to the board or the planning commission or whoever, right? So if you as a board member and a legislator want to create a project or work on something or even get together with someone else, you can. Just don't get together with 4 people, because then you're doing the township's business, right? And then I think one thing... yeah, I mean, we can have a special meeting about any topic, right? I think that, and the ones you brought up are important, and I know everybody's busy, so I think it's just important that we make sure not everything becomes a priority, because then, like, nothing's a priority, right? So,
Right.
And I'm not talking about anything in particular, but we just have to pick and choose our battles, because there's only so much bandwidth in the boardroom every night of the week, so. And then that's all I have. Public comment, limited to 3 minutes. State your name and address.
commission is a new commission that has never been in place before, a gigantic financial.
Microphone. Is your mic on? Green light?
Is it on now?
Yeah,
Okay.
and you can recover your time.
Okay. The Bridge Commission is a new commission that has never been in place before, a gigantic financial leap that the township is taking, and in the end, the taxpayers will be paying for any mistakes or oversights. Not wanting to record or televise the meeting doesn't align with the best interest of residents or taxpayers. These are not volunteer positions for planting flowers along Meridian or cleaning up the open spaces. These are positions that require business expertise and acumen in specific areas that have never been required on any other commission before. These commission members will have immense responsibility to the township, taxpayers, our property values, our taxes, and safety at a different level than any other commission. Not only should the township board members be concerned with fulfilling its obligations, but going beyond such to benefit the taxpayers. Not everyone can get to a meeting, and who exactly is harmed by making more information available to the taxpayer? Who doesn't want a board that will do more than required to provide who doesn't want a board that will do more than required to provide information to taxpayers? We could have stuck with the old board then, if that was the case. Who doesn't want a board that will worry about taxpayers as a whole instead of one candidate that, according to some of you, didn't want to be interviewed because he didn't want to be recorded? No other candidates had issues with that. This bond issue will last longer than some marriages on the island. The fact that some members of this board are more worried about the process for picking commissioners for a purchase that this township has never encountered before and a specific candidate gives me great pause about your definition of transparency and what is in the taxpayer's best interest. And Trustee Bartlett, your diatribe about board decorum and respect to others is quite ironic and absurd since you pointed me out as the wife in the front row, which was completely unprofessional and juvenile at best. And finally, Trustee Shelton, the same goes for you when you roll your eyes when a board member is speaking and noting the Michigan Townships Association best practices. Not professional and juvenile at best. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Sir.
Good evening. I'm Bill Kostick, live in Hawthorne. I'm chair of the Public Service Commission. I told Derek I wasn't going to speak, but I wanted to thank you for the approval of the items that we had before you tonight. When the 1.9 million was coming, that's a lot of money. I just wanted you to know, and I've known Bill for a number of years, and a couple of you have been to our meetings, and you're all welcome to come to our meetings. Kevin and Derek did a great job explaining things and videos but I want to thank you. When we recommend that kind of money, I thought I should show my face, and I do want to thank you for your support, your continued support. We're always making recommendations to purchase things that we need. So appreciate all that. And the final comment is, we wouldn't have the money to do that if it weren't for the work of the staff. To get the grant, about $1 million went into the wastewater plant, and then we're doing the sewer lining. So we have been searching for those funds. Thank Derek for finding those funds for us. But anyway, just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. And we're always happy to have commissioners at the board meeting too. So the invitation goes both ways.
Mr. Kostick, thank you for everything you have done over the years to make our run smoothly. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, meeting ends at 9 p.m.